Good day. Welcome to the ICAN Dealing with Objections modules. My name is Craiganel, and we're looking forward to having a great learning journey with you. And feel free to interact with us if you have any questions or concerns. But as I said, let's enjoy the learning journey with us. We'll be focusing on 10 modules, and today we're focusing on quite a popular excuse in South Africa, which is a debtor saying they are unemployed. But as you can see on the screen, there's at least 10 of these modules that we will be covering in our training. We love our quotes at ICAN, and certainly this is kind of the one that we always start with this. And it's not called, it's been coined by Abu Bakr. And if you read there, it says, without knowledge, action is useless, and knowledge without action is futile. And I want to warn all of the people watching this video that will be not longer than 20-25 minutes. We'll be sharing you with you some insights that will help you overcome this challenge of excuse where people say they're unable to pay due to them going through the debt review process. But it is a meaningless exercise if you do not implement the lessons learned or the tactics learned or the tips learned. So I urge you, please, this is a practical module and course. So I really hope that you guys take us up on our advice, which is to implement this. Most call centers do have daily meetings, and I use the time just to do some role plays and yeah, we call it becoming a smart collector. So enjoy. So now we're dealing with the learning outcomes for this module on debt review. So as you can see there, just to understand exactly what debt review is and the impact it has on the consumer, understanding the debt review process, how to deal with the debtor that raises this excuse for not payment, and most importantly is ways just to inform them of the benefits of paying either yourself if you are a lender or a debt collection agency while they're going through the process. And that's important. So it is essential that you do understand the various phases that we go through in the debt review process. Debt review as a solution to over-indebted consumers was introduced through the National Credit Act in 2007. This is kind of stats that was available, I think, 2020 or 2021. We're just giving indication of the kind of the exposure people have in South Africa to debt. So it was 27 million people that have credit records on a number of credit bureaus in South Africa. 24% have an impaired account. And what that means is they are 3 months in arrears. So first of all, there's always work for us as debt collectors. And quite interestingly, about 3% of them have default judgments, and the rest of them are under administration. I think the important message is that we will even be covering those two areas, which is the default judgments as well as administration orders. But yes, these stats is quite scary, and therefore the chances that you as a collection agent and team leader will come across a debtor with exactly one of these excuses, as we've highlighted earlier on, is highly likely, and it's always important to be properly prepared to deal with them in a very professional way, and again, as a smart collection agent. Well, here's some interesting information on debt review in South Africa. I've mentioned already when this kicked in. through the National Credit Act, and now obviously been um, um, monitored and managed and overseen by the National Credit Regulator. But the way the consumer engages through get access to the solution is through debt counselors, and basically they try to figure out what kind of credit exposure these individuals have, and then whether they actually can afford these installments or not. And generally, it's people that are going to have job losses, some way, shape, or form if something has happened with the income. And there's also some instances where they're over indebted, and that's quite serious, to be honest with you, because there might be some repercussions for the lenders. So yeah, so it's quite important just to always bear that in mind. And the debt counselors are the ones that will be engaging with the lenders or credit providers, the credit bureaus. And then once they accept the plan or the repayment plan, um, yeah, then it's then hopefully the debtor sticks to that plan and then they get their financial situation back on track. It is important to understand the certain considerations for the consumers, or what we would call debtors. It does debt review, and when someone is under debt review, it doesn't cancel their debt. It basically a benefit where it reduces what they have to repay to lenders. In some instances, the repayment period might increase if it benefits the debtor. But they do have certain protection against some legal enforcement, unless they actually default on their debt review arrangement. So then there's a problem there. This is not a savings plan. It's just basically relief in terms of what they can afford. And most often than not, if people get out of it, then obviously they're back on track. So it is the spirit of debt review is basically to enable people to repay their debt. So therefore, you'll have a very happy credit provider. The downside is obviously the person that's under debt review will not have access to credit for the period that they're under debt review. Debt review definitely benefits consumers. As I've mentioned earlier, it does reduce their monthly installments. And yeah, let's have a look at kind of the benefits outlined on the slide. So basically, once they've made and reached an agreement with the credit providers, and I'm referring to the debt counselors, there's one payment that the debtor would then make to what is called a payment distribution agent, or a PDA. The property and assets are protected, and the debt counselor would deal with all the creditor communication. And you'll see, notice that I do use creditor lender interchangeably. And once the debt is settled, they will be issued a clearance certificate, and they'll basically have a clean slate at the end of this period. So now let's talk about the impact of debt review on consumers. A consumer that's under debt review, they will not be able to access any new credit until a clearance certificate of the old debt is issued by the debt counselor. Their credit records will definitely be impacted, and impacted in a way that there will be a notation on them on the credit records to say that they are under debt review. Couples that are married in community of property need to jointly apply for debt counseling. And then finally, debt review is not free. The debt counselor must be paid, as well as the payments are made or distributed by the payment distribution agency. They would also take a fee out of that. So if you're paying a 100 Rand and you think your debt's been settled, nope, there's a percentage of that would need to cover this cost. So as a debt collection agent, our advice to you is to make sure that for a debtor considering going under debt review, use that moment to advise them, but don't spend too much time. When I get to them, to make a payment arrangement with you instead. It is indeed essential for you as a debt collection agent and team leader to understand the process. And there are also forms involved in the debt review application process. And we feel it's important that you understand the process to the extent that you'll be able to ask quite effective questions, especially if you sense that the debtor is not sincere or what we say are bluffing you. So you can ask them in what stage of the debt review you are. And if it's a very good and effective debt counselor, they would generally kind of say, you're going through this phase or that phase, and now it's been finalized, and so forth and so on. So just be aware of that. And obviously, as we said, knowledge without application is just a futile exercise. So just please make sure you become comfortable. And we've tried our best in the training material to simplify the processes for you as a viewer. There are official forms. As I've mentioned, it's important that you understand it. Asking questions is key. This is critical, guys. I cannot stress this more. You cannot just accept that someone says, I'm under debt review. You need to ask what stage they are, when they've applied. And that's critical because often a debt collection agent would not know that a debtor has applied because it often happens quite quickly in that they have to apply, and the lender would have 5 days to respond to provide key financial information upon which decisions are then made to determine if the person qualifies to be at a debt review. So it is time sensitive. But we urge you to really make sure that you really probe and ask the right questions when it comes to the stage that they're in. So let's talk through Form 17.1. Basically, when a debtor consumer applies for debt counseling, as mentioned earlier, they'll be consulting with the debt counselor. And the debt counselor would notify all the lenders or credit providers that this individual is applying, and they do this through Form 17.1. And this kind of kicks off the debt review process. Just please always consider that it hasn't been granted yet, it hasn't been approved yet. So therefore, when you engage with the debtor, ask them, what stage are you in? If they say no, the debt counselor said something about a 17.1, that's only basically phase 1. And as we've mentioned just on the previous clip, that the lenders have 5 days to respond. And basically what they're providing is just latest financial information. And also they'll be basically kind of providing the debt counselors with what the kind of minimum amounts they'll accept from a consumer. So this is important to understand. Also at this point, the debt counselors are often also required to kind of inform the credit bureaus that this application is underway. So the debtor that you're engaging with need to understand that the fun is coming to an end at this point in time. Because this is just a way this is kind of a risk. It's a way to let the rest of the industry know that there's a problem here. This person is seeking assistance and they are following a process. And for that reason, it is prudent that the debt counselor obviously inform in a formal way the credit bureaus and credit grantors. So Form 17.2 basically is the debt counselor informing everybody that the proposals have been accepted or rejected. So there are instances where credit providers do not accept the proposals made by the debt counselors. So again, be careful as a debt collector. Therefore, it's important to ask, what stage are you in? Has it been approved or declined or rejected? right? So I think that's very, very important. And they will then have this will also go through the legal process of courts, and there'll be a specific form with the ID number and details of the debt counselor that they would have in their possession. So I would even ask that as an idea, as a suggestion to you. Again, as smart agents, we are kind of just indicating to the debtor, listen here, I hope you are sincere in using this excuse for not payment, but if they do mention, well, I've received the form 17.2, well, was it accepted or was it rejected? I think that's going to be a critical and very, very useful question to ask. Sadly, though, consumers do die. And Form 17.3 is exactly that notification that the debt counselor would inform that the consumer has passed on. And yes, so yeah, this is just another step or phase in the process. So just something to be mindful of as you understand. Form 17.1, basically it's the debt counselor informing that the consumer is no longer debt review, but has yet to be rehabilitated. So the listing will be removed, and it's quite strict in terms of timelines. But the credit record of the payment and default issue will always remain on the credit bureaus for at least 5 years. It is important to understand that debtors' credit records still need to be cleaned up or fixed up. So they need to obtain a clearance certificate, and the debt counselor would get that clearance certificate from the various lenders and then submit it to the credit bureau. If they don't do that, the debtors' records will be kind of reflect negatively for about up to 10 years, depending on the listing type. And after this period, let's say 2 to 10 years, and the debt's still not settled, credit providers can still go after the debtor if they haven't settled their debt. So yes, use this opportunity, coach and guide the debtor. If they say they're considering going under debt review or they've just started the process, come on, you have the knowledge now, and use this knowledge to say, listen here, you are better off actually repaying our client or paying us than to go under this debt review process, because you're going to be negatively impacted. Even though it is a very good tool for consumers in South Africa. For any of our learners that have gone through the ICAN training modules in the past, you will always recall we'll talk about preparation. And we love this quote, again, quoted by Confucius. Success depends upon previous preparation, and without such preparation, there will surely be failure. So, very, very important, guys. I understand, and we understand that often in a call center environment, you have 2 to 3 minutes to get through a call, and you don't have much time to prepare. You don't know what kind of excuse you're going to be getting. But just going through all these modules, understanding the questions that you will be would need to ask to kind of figure out whether the debtor is bluffing or not is important. So we cannot stress it more than just please make sure that you are prepared. The benefits of you having access to these videos, you can do it in the comfort of your home while you're traveling to work, and just kind of play it as just a way to kind of remind you and prepare you for the day ahead and the excuses that you'll be confronted with. So now let's cover a little bit more details around agent preparation, and maybe a little bit more specific that will help you in your day-to-day navigation through hundreds and hundreds of calls and excuses. A key thing is consider past excuses that the debtor has raised, and as we've mentioned earlier on in debt review, it's quite time sensitive, So have a look at your system, whatever system you may be working on, and see, have they raised this objection before or excuse before? You do now know, and as you're learning, debt review has very specific timelines. Check out if there's any previous excuses that they've raised. And also, educate them to say, look, depending on the state that they're in, and we've mentioned earlier in 17.1, 17.2, does not necessarily mean that it's been kind of approved or agreed upon. So go on, guys, have that discussion with them and kind of get them to think about, what isn't it better just to repay our client or yourself if you're a lender? And that's very, very important. And we cannot stress the importance of your preparation as a collection agent and also as a team leader. So by now, I hope you're getting the idea that ICAN and Craig loves quotations. And this is a nice one. It's we're now talking about agent tips. And so, yeah, if you just look at what Anne Burrell said, part of success is asking questions and listening to the answers. And I would always say in my training, if I deal with collection agents, there's a saying that says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. And there's another phrase that people said, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, so listen double of the time, So that's kind of the way we're going with this, is just be careful, listen, be clinical, ask the questions to understand whether they've been truthful or not, but listen to their answers, especially if they are going sincerely through the debt review process. Then you can get quite technical with them and asking them, so what stage are you? Has it been granted? Did you get the order? And, is your ID number on it, and so forth and so on. So, yes, very important, but quite a nice, another quote that we love. Oh, I really like our program, and because we really get down to business when it comes to you as an agent or supervisor having to deal with debtors raising debt review or debt counseling as an excuse for not payment. So we're quite practical, as you can see here. By way of example, we've even given us some guidelines. So, for example, thank you for sharing that you're under debt review. Could you please tell me at what stage of the process you are currently in? And so what it basically means is, are you in 17.1? Have you just applied? Have you received approval? And so forth and so on. I do apologize for the typo there. Next question, when did you apply for debt review? As we now have learned, the process is time specific. What is the name of the debt counselor? They should know this. So if they're bluffing, they won't know it. But guys, come on. The debt counselor has a vested interest in this thing working out quite nicely, so they would have the information unless they are bluffing you. And then if they say, well, debt review order has been granted, or they get quite smart with you and say, well, 17.2, I've received that. Well, what's the date that the order was granted? And yeah, there's some tips in there. So let's just be on the lookout for these. And as I said, preparation is important. And having these questions as part of your arsenal is just going to make you a smart collector. And the debtor is going to realize that I can no longer mess around with this collection agent. Hey guys, I love the next set of tips. This is when you're really becoming quite, professional and sophisticated. And I mean, again, it's a question: did your debt counselor issue the form? Did they notify the credit providers? Can you provide me with a reference number if it was furnished by the debt counselor? Did the credit providers collections department contact the debtor? Because if they did, then obviously there's a strong possibility that they haven't started the debt review process. My apologies. Did the credit provider close the accounts? So yeah, ask those questions. Don't be shy. This will help us overcome a lot of the challenges with people that's trying to bluff us. And we continue on with our tips journey, and always inform the debtor that they must still be liable for payment until the process has been finalized. Now, if you recall earlier on, 17.2 does not necessarily mean it's been approved. So you press on, my friends. Make payment arrangements. Ensure that you've captured it on. This is an example for on your collection software or on your dialer, so that your colleagues also know that this is happening and that this is kind of the excuse that they've been giving us while you were engaging with them. Hey guys, it was so nice chatting to you guys, and I'm looking forward to your comments, feedback, and questions. This is an interesting topic. It's a positive thing for debtors, but we're trying to figure out who's bluffing and who's not. So you're going to become, as a smart collector, someone like a bluff detector. I've just made that up, I know. But it's been a great pleasure for me to talk to you on the subject that is very important, and excuse has been used widely in South Africa. You remember earlier in 29 million people in South Africa are on our credit bureaus, and 20% of them are 3 months plus in arrears. So this will definitely pop up in any one of your calls. So remember, just be positive, be prepared, be professional, but always remember to be empathetic, because there are people that are going through a very difficult time, and I think they're really going to appreciate the fact that you've informed them, you've taken them through a process. But remember, our game plan as debt collectors is to get a payment arrangement and a payment. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been great chatting to you. We'll chat again in future training sessions. My name is craiganel from ICAN. It's been a pleasure talking to you.